One of the most asked questions: what do I need to do, and when do I need to do it? As a part of the 5200 note that you'll get every year between May and maybe late June of every year will be the schedule for the year. And the schedule for the year will tell you exactly what you need to submit and when you need to submit it. And the additions now include a CNAP 3-year plan and a 5200 notice for instruction for all of the CNAP S4 activities, and also spot check dates, which will vary from year to year. But for right now, we're still using quarters. So in the CNAP note, in the schedule, we'll tell you exactly what you need to do and when you need to submit it. So for steps 1 through 2 of this process, at the beginning of the year, sometime around May, we go ahead and we send out a draft 5200 for you to take a look at and for you to use as an example for your own, and a 3-year plan, which is an AU inventory, a spreadsheet that has all of your sub-AUs on it. So the MIC coordinators should review that, take a look at it with their command, determine whether or not the information on there is correct, whether or not the POCs are correct, all these different things, and then submit this back to CNAP along with their 5200. To get there, if you don't have this information, from the SharePoint MIC site, you go to examples and templates, you go to blank templates and forms, and then you go to 5200 plan template to get there. The 3-year plan will be submitted, will be either emailed to you or can be found in this same area. This is an example of the 3-year plan. So the AUs and sub-AUs will be populated along with the description of the function. What may or may not be populated is the function POC if that's changed. So the MIC coordinators will have to update that and ensure that this information is correct. And then for the assigned risk, it'll be high, medium, or low. And this column may or may not be locked depending on the year that you are completing this. After the first year of doing this, this will be locked to ensure integrity of the other fields here. So the command, the MIC coordinators and the command determines whether or not they want it to be a local command requirement for that year, which if they check this block, it automatically highlights these blocks and makes it a requirement for the year. Or if the CNAP requires it and they hit this, they check this block for the upcoming year, it will automatically require it. Also, if it is designated at a high, it will be required for every year. Mediums are required every 2nd year, and lows are every 3rd year. Once this has been scrubbed and approved, this will be returned back to the SharePoint site along with the 5200 plan or instruction or note for that organization. So after the 5200 has been submitted and after the 3-year plan has been submitted, now we're ready to do the annual reviews and the quarterly spot checks. For the subject matter experts, if they don't have a checklist for their particular area, they go to the CNAP site and go to the IG MIC page. There's an inspections checklist link, and on that inspection checklist link, you'll find the blank checklist for all of the sub-AUs within CNAP. They'll use that to conduct their reviews. They'll conduct their reviews such as the example checklist down here, where they have the question, and then they have the supporting documentation comment. So the question will make a statement, they will say yes or no, and then they'll have to state how it is that they actually tested that to make sure that the control was in place. This is exactly what the MIC coordinators should be looking for when they are determining whether or not the control was tested using an approved method. Once that checklist has been completed and the MIC coordinators review that checklist, they will make a determination as to whether or not the results of it and whether or not the control testing was adequate. And if it was adequate, they'll make a remark that the controls were adequate, and if not, they will make a remark in their memorandum that it's not adequate, and they will make remarks to that effect. Also, in that quarterly spot check memorandum, there's an area where they certify that the person completing the checklist actually used one of the methods here to test the control, and if there was an error, they note the sub-AU that had an error and the corrective action dates, and they digitally sign by double-clicking on the form here. After all of the checklists have been done for the year, the SMEs, the person that's doing the checklist, along with the MIC coordinators, will complete internal control and risk assessments for the year and submit those to CNAP. As I stated before, the details on how these should be conducted will be following in a future presentation. But the risk assessments look at a list of whatever the risks are associated with a process, while internal control assessments looked at whether or not those controls have been effective. Once all of the internal control assessments and all of the risk assessments have been done, the MIC coordinators will now complete a statement of assurance as to whether or not the controls were adequate, or if they're not, it was a qualified statement. Then they need to put what those errors were, and they also need to complete a risk and opportunity assessment. This goes to NAV InsGen. The final piece of the puzzle for MIC coordinators and for the SMEs at the AUs and sub-AUs is a completion of the statement of assurance and the risk and opportunity assessments. So once all the internal control assessments, and all the risk assessments, and all the checklists and everything have been done, the last two documents that they need to submit to CNAP are the statement of assurance and the risk and opportunity statement. So they take all of the information that they've received from everything else, and they determine whether or not the statement should be a unqualified statement, meaning that there are no errors or material weaknesses to report, or if the statement should be a qualified statement. They say that in effect they have reasonable assurance that management controls are in place, with the exception of whatever the exception might be. So the MIC coordinators will submit this, and then they will submit a statement or a risk and opportunity statement which details at the highest levels where they believe that there are risks or opportunities in their area that need to be addressed at a higher level. These are programmatic things that may not be failing now, but in the long run may fail if they're not addressed. Once they submit these two items to me, the risk and opportunity assessment and the statement of assurance, I compile all those together and look at all the elements of all the statements of insurance I've got, and then I give create a certification statement for signature by the Chief of Staff. This certification statement details how many control assessments we've done, how many assessable units, how many statements of insurance, and how many material weaknesses that we've had during that time. The completion of these two statements, the certification statement and the risk and opportunity statement, are the key elements to the program. That's why we do the work that we do, and that's why it's so important that the checklist be done as accurately as possible and that the controls are actually tested. The final piece I want to talk about is our SharePoint site for CNAP. Deb has done a lot of work to ensure that the information that is on the site is up to date and that it's available to anyone that needs it. It's our central repository for things. So the easiest way to get to things that I have found is when you get into the IG page, the CNAP IG page, and you go to the MIC page, is that you go to the bottom, and at the bottom of the page you'll find the quick links to everything that you really want to go to with an example of how to get there, what actually is entailed in it. Submissions of deliverables are here, examples and templates are here, and references are here. And the risk and opportunity assessment, which is separate from the MIC submissions, are done here. So over time, as we look at the site, and if there's any indication that we need to revise some things, then we will, to make it as easy as possible for you. But until we get any statements on that, just make sure you go to the MIC page, go down to the bottom, and these quick links will get you to where you want to go pretty quickly. Hopefully that has addressed the major concerns that you have about the program. I know there's always some different questions out there about some specific things. Feel free to contact us, and like I said, please look for all of the upcoming videos on all of the different elements of the MIC process, from the development of accessible units all the way through the development of your statement of assurance and your risk and opportunity statements. Hopefully this has been helpful for you, and look forward to your comments.